Stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. First thing is to approve the agenda as presented. Does anyone have any questions, issues with the agenda? Now, we did get an updated one, so this one should be that has the 2026 ambulance agreement in there. So I know we got two packets.
Correct.
Any questions? If not, I guess I'll take a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
I'll second.
I got a motion by Rick Seiler, second by Maggie Bass. If there's no other questions, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Okay, passes 5-0. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda. Does anyone have any questions or any issues with items in the consent agenda? If not, I guess I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
I got a second by Rick Seiler. If there's no other questions, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? Okay, passes 5-0. Doesn't look like we have any government agency updates today. Public forum, again, this is a time when anyone can address the council. I do not have anyone on the list. So I guess we'll move on. Public hearings, we have one public hearing on ordinance number 358. And that's regarding the vacating certain easements in the plat for the new business park. Ken, do you want to give a little introduction to this and then?
Yeah, I've just got a very short summary for the council here tonight. So if you recall, back on February 17th, which is the same night that the city council approved a purchase and development agreement for the sale of the last two industrial park lots to Aventus Investments LLC, we introduced an ordinance and scheduled the public hearing tonight for the vacation of a drainage and utility easement located between lots 4 and 5, Block 2, New Prague Industrial Park, 11th edition. This will facilitate their combining of the two properties and the construction of a single 50,000 square foot building for multiple tenants in the industrial park. We did provide notice to all utility companies and adjacent property owners, and as of the time of writing the memo, we did not have any comments regarding the vacation of the easement. However, we are required to hold a public hearing at tonight's meeting. So with that, I can turn the floor back to the city council to get the public hearing opened.
Okay. Is there any questions at all from the council before? Okay. I guess I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
Second by Rick Seiler. If there's no questions, all in favor of opening the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? Okay. I do not have anyone on the list to speak about this
I'll move to close.
adoption.
I would say, Mr. Mayor, even if no one signed up, since this is a.
Right.
Just in case.
Yeah, if anyone would like to speak on this item, come forward, state your name and your address. Again, you would like to speak on this, if you want to address the council on this adoption number 358, come forward, state your name and address. All right. Now I guess I'll look a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
I will second that. So I got a motion by Rick Seiler, second by Chuck Nicolai to close the public hearing regarding this ordinance for adoption. If there's no other questions, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Okay, passes 5-0.
I will make a motion to approve ordinance number 358, vacating certain easements in the plat of New Prague Business Park 11th edition.
Second.
Is this the second reading then? Or is
This would be
the
a
first?
second reading and adoption, correct?
So, of the 358?
Yes.
Okay.
Did you have a question, Sean?
No.
Or your hand half raised, I didn't know if you were gonna.
Oh, no, just,
So this is the second reading of this, because this isn't an ordinance, is it?
It's an ordinance,
It's
yes.
an
Anytime
or-
we vacate public
Okay.
way, including easements, we need to.
Okay,
by
thank
ordinance.
you. So we did the first reading at the
Correct.
last meeting?
Yes.
one.
Or
All
on February 17th.
17th, because wasn't it 30 days or something?
Correct.
And then this will go into effect 30 days later, or just right
This will
after?
go into effect upon publication, which would be in the New Prague Times next week.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so I have a motion by Maggie Bass to approve the second reading of the ordinance number 358.
Second.
We got a second by Rick Seiler.
Bruce. Yeah, Bruce did it.
Oh, you did you? See, you guys are moving way too fast. So I got a motion by Maggie Bass, second by Bruce Wolf. There's no other questions. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay, passes 5-0. Moving right along, city engineering updates. I don't know if, Matt, you want to add anything to what we have in our packet?
Nope, unless you have any questions.
Does anyone have any questions? I assume, once we quit getting snow, we'll probably start, meeting with the contractors and at least for the 25 to go over the,
Yes,
the
to
list?
close out 25, then, we had talked to the project, BCM from the 24 project, sorry, got my years wrong, 24th project to try to get them to complete that project, so.
And did
No.
you get some positive feedback finally, or?
No major updates yet. Leave it
Okay,
at that for now.
Any more color of there's a comment in Chris's update about a review meeting being held on Alton Avenue. Is there any more color that came out of that?
I'll give that to Ken. That was part of it, but that was,
Yeah, I'd say the biggest update out of that update meeting that we had on Thursday last week was largely, I think, the consensus of the early findings, and the county and the city were to look at roundabouts being added to that alignment on Alton Avenue, which would be similar to what we have on Alton Avenue south of Main Street next to Coburn's. If you recall, the old study had just channelization and possible signals in the future on there with multiple turn lanes and different things. So I think that was a big thing that was determined at that meeting. And then I think we expect within about a 2-week time period to have a draft back that will show a roundabout at what would be Alton and First Street as it would cross east-west over Alton. And then I believe they will also show a roundabout at where Alton would intersect with 12th Street Northeast, kind of, we'll call it close to the wastewater treatment plant, but that intersection as well. It actually helps straighten out the alignment a little bit of 270th. That's that gravel road that runs over to Faith Point Lutheran Church. Yep.
okay. And then that will eliminate the curve.
It would
Eventually.
largely get rid of the curve on 270th and that intersection, but you still have a curve on Alton as it kind of has to connect back up with County Road 15 as it comes south from County Road 2.
Okay.
I'm not sure if as a result of this meeting or maybe Josh's update, but then was there an agreement or understanding that the project would be a phased-in project? Like improving just a part of the road?
Yes, that's to be determined. Some different things could happen there. We would likely have phasing on different portions of the road for construction, and also be phasing on what portions would need to be potentially closed with a median being closed off, depending on the traffic levels and development that would happen adjacent. So similar like we have with Alton Avenue adjacent to Coburn's, there are open medians basically between Main and Third that will eventually close. We'll probably have something very similar here as well. And depending on how much of the roadway is needed for certain developments, you may or may not need to go all the way to the roundabout to have kind of an alternate way to circulate back out. Those things have not been determined yet at this point.
But is it safe to assume that the substantial part of the improvement of that whole road would not be done at one time?
I would say it would be very safe to say that, correct.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions on the engineering updates? Okay, if not, we'll go to, next on the agenda, ordinances for introduction. We do not have any ordinance for introduction, so next on the agenda is ordinance for adoption. Looks like we need to do the second reading of, the resolution, for the Unified Developmental Code. So, Ken, do you want to do a little introduction on that, or?
Yeah, I'll give you just a brief update. So you recall, on March 2nd, Bolton and Mink did a presentation of the 15-month plus process that we went through for the Unified Development Code, which is largely the rewriting of the zoning and subdivision ordinance, but also incorporates previously written floodplain ordinance, building code ordinance, and a few other ancillary items that are related to development. Just we have an all-one area of the code for ease of basically review and look up when we have development proposals. So we did introduce the ordinance on March 2nd. We did not have any public comment at that meeting. I did want to note the UDC draft or final draft that was in the packet. I did have one copied and put on the front counter there, and then Alyssa also updated the digital version, but we did make 74 changes, and it sounds like a lot to the online version, but it was largely punctuation that had been missed when we did the accept changes review from the draft that was in the packet. Just commas, periods, and capitalization got corrected, so we had 74 of those. I just want to be transparent and upfront that we did make those changes from Friday when the packet went out to today, just kind of cleaned up some grammatical and punctuation type things. So nothing of substance, just want to point that out.
Okay, that does not change the context at all.
Not at
so
all.
We still approve the first reading, so this is basically just some cosmetic improvements.
Correct. So this would just be the second reading with that final clean version, which was updated in your packet.
Okay. Any questions for Ken?
I have one more. Ken, in the news recently in Blaine, I think it was, the ADU thing has come up again. And that's always been a concern of mine. I know we talked about it at length in the planning commission and whatnot. Does this still give the city, I'm fine if it's a family member and whatever else, but when people do it to just make more income, or because of a political feeling that they have, and allowing, or not even renting, just allowing other people to stay in these, is that still a permitted structure or ability, or?
Yeah, so I'm gonna pull this up out of here. So we still do have in this draft accessory dwelling units being permitted in all of our single-family residential districts. What that would allow, and let me just get to that particular language here. 1 second as I get to that.
Can you tell us the page, Ken?
Yes, once I find it, I will let you know.
I'm just in the definition area, I didn't. read
Yeah,
how
so the
whole-
definition doesn't really get at whether, family members or not. I just wanted to get to the, kind of the meat of the ordinance. So if you go to page 169, whoop, now it jumped on me. Sorry, it's a huge document, so it's taking forever. Sorry, page 223 of the council packet, if you have that page number. But 169 of the actual UDC ordinance. That's where we get into the details of the accessory dwelling units. It does not limit to just family members as written currently. It would allow, or would require, a permanent residence, the person that owns the property either live in the primary home or the accessory dwelling unit, doesn't matter which one. So you can't just have a tenant and a tenant.
Right, well, I think what the problem was, and what was caused the uproar with some of the neighbors, was that this individual really wanted it to bring in homeless families or something, or
Oh.
just the homeless in general. He didn't even limit it to the families, I believe, I watched it on the news, but
One in Blaine?
the one in Blaine.
I think that's the
So,
way I interpreted it.
yeah, and I just want to make sure that New Prague doesn't get into that situation as well.
And I believe, I'm just reading through it again, I believe we have a limitation on short-term rentals written into here. I'm just verifying that real quick.
What happens if
Yeah,
it's
ADUs are
not,
not
Yeah, if
utilized for
it's not
short-term
rental,
rentals,
yeah.
so we do have that covered.
what if it's a not rental? If he's not getting any, he's just allowing individuals to there.
You know, I couldn't address the legal point of that.
What forced Blaine, if I'm not right, it sounds like some of you guys have heard a little bit about this, but they, I think, did a moratorium on it for a year so they could study it and get more.
So, I don't know if you've gotten so I've been sending you guys legislative updates the last couple of weeks from the scale lobbyist. There is mention of this exact incident in the update that I sent this afternoon, referencing back that they are, currently considering prohibiting all ADUs in Blaine, kind of because of this, but at the same time, the state, as they have for the last number of years, is again looking at potential proposals for, basically requiring increased housing. And so, obviously, what we have in our code can work now, but the state for a number of years now has been trying to kind of force density on communities, and we'll continue fighting back on that as well, but.
Well, I would think that when they had the trifecta a couple years ago, they could have passed it, but now that it's a little more closer, I don't know how, I don't see it passing again, but I just wanna make sure New Prague doesn't get in a situation like Blaine did, where they're neighbors versus neighbors, people's political views on one way or the other against the others, and then, you know, the potential of allowing essentially, you know, maybe attics or whatever else in somebody's backyard, which also is adjacent to many other backyards.
So are you, maybe we can suggest a conditional use permit for an,
You could go that route, we talked about that. You could go that route.
because if the state hasn't mandated anything yet, I would hesitate to get ahead of that, you know, and just say, we're going to allow it, but maybe just allow it on a one-on-one basis.
So I do know we talked about this as well. There are a number of communities who are trying to get ahead of the state a little bit. That way, because actually, it's kind of a bipartisan effort the last few years, both in to decrease the cost of housing, we're gonna cut regulations and allow people just to do more. A lot more and more cities are trying to, in some way, allow accessory dwelling units to be able to say, hey, we aren't just stonewalling these things, like, we do allow them. So the state doesn't need to supersede us on this, which is, I think, one of the reasons why we fit it in here in the first place.
That's why we're suggesting the way we have it written.
And so, yeah, I mean, if we wanna even talk conditional use, that is more than what we allowed before, and I think
Yes.
that's certainly an option that we could go with.
Yeah, we're not saying no, but to your point, Sean, I think we need to be cautious about how these dwellings are going to be occupied and have a better understanding on a use basis.
So I will note that any accessory dwelling unit, we would require a rental license, which obviously has to have an inspection and everything of that sort. So whether they're charging rent or not, we would obviously be inspecting it through that as well. And as I noted before, we would not allow short-term rentals. So if it was people coming and going, whether it be homeless families or anyone for that matter, we would not allow that. You'd have to have a longer-term lease than a short-term, which I believe we have defined as 30 days or less in the rental code.
So every 30 days, they could be cycling people through.
I'm not comfortable with that.
Yeah, I'm not either, really. I can see where that could create, if we don't lock it down in a statement like this, then it's that gray area, and then somebody threatens to sue us, like's happening in Blaine, and then we have legal fees and everything else. I'd much rather see us somehow, in whatever legal terms that we can, to be the ones that control that, as opposed to letting it up to the homeowners and or.
I think it's certainly something we can explore. I would say that,
But if we approve this tonight, though, and then are we locked in for a period of even 2 months or even 3 months? I mean,
I mean, being a zoning code, we could start changing it as soon as next meeting, like, there, we have that with the code. I will say, and I'm just saying, I don't know if we're allowed to basically say who can and can't rent within a building, like, obviously, you can put time limits into place, we've seen. I'm not aware, and it's certainly, I think, a question that we would have for legal as to, is there a way to write this if we are concerned about who may be renting, or, how it may be rented out, is maybe a better word, maybe.
Well, even in our rental property, do we allow that month-to-month rent or that short-term rental,
30 days and up is what are allowed under that.
okay?
But I don't think we're talking about rental. I think we're talking that someone's gonna go to someone and say, hey, you know what, I have an ADU, you can live in it, because I know you're having some hardships. So that's what your concern is, right, Sean? There's no rental agreement, it just, hey, you can live here.
And I think rental agreement or not, just that shorter tenancy, whoever the tenant is, in my opinion, I would want to get city attorney's opinion on that, but I believe that would be prohibited under our current code. We would also need a license, so if they didn't have one for that unit, then, obviously we could compel them legally to obtain that, get an inspection like any other rental unit. And
Even if they're not renting, even if there's no exchange of compensation?
I think this is my opinion, I would have to check with legal. I believe offering that for another, household, as it were, whether it be a single person or not, that's a separate unit that would be being rented. I think that would trigger the rental code provisions.
So how about I recommend this? How about we move forward with this tonight, but you guys basically remove that section of code? And staff can do some digging with legal on the language within that particular piece, and we can bring it back, whether it's the next meeting or 2 meetings from now, or whatever ends up being. And it ends up being the First Amendment to our new UDC, but you can pass the rest of the code without ADU language tonight. It's possible.
I would be okay with that, yeah, just so that we can explore it just a little bit deeper.
Yeah, I think that works if we can pull it out.
Okay, and we can pull that out in the second reading? It's,
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're not
you're not adding anything.
you're not adding anything
Okay.
at this point, so.
okay, any other questions? Okay, I guess I'll look for a motion for this resolution, pulling out the,
It's actually an ordinance, to be clear.
pardon?
I just want to make clear it's an ordinance, not a resolution.
Oh.
Yep.
The ordinance, okay, I'm
We
sorry.
do have a resolution next, but
Oh, okay, I might jump in okay, the ordinance, pulling out the accessory dwelling units section of the ordinance.
So moved.
Okay.
I'll second.
And I got a motion by Rick Seiler, second by Sean Ryan. So that would be section F, right? Or letter F of the,
correct.
okay, so letter F of the, just for clarification, to be taken out and revisited in the future, so. Okay, I got a motion and a second. If there's no other questions, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? Okay, passes. Now we have the resolution, right, Ken?
Now the resolution would approve summary publication of the ordinance, so we have to put the 269 pages of the code in the paper. I know the paper would probably love that, but I don't know if we could afford that.
Are we gonna get a Christmas card from the paper? Okay,
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number CC 26031602, a resolution approving the publication of ordinance number 359 by title and summary, noting that the ADU section of the publication, of the ordinance rather, is not published. Does that make sense?
okay, Sean, I got a motion by Maggie Bass, seconded by Sean to approve resolution number CC 260316-02, taking out section F of the ADU part, so. If there's no other questions, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, any opposition? Okay, passes 5-0.
So what will be published is a link then?
Yeah, on our website, we'll have that available in a full printed copy that people can come in and look at.
So the newspaper will have a link or just the address to.
Oh, the summary publication, you just say they can check our website. We won't put the actual link in there. Yep.
So we don't have to have all pages in the,
No. Nope.
it'd be the biggest Prague Times they had in a long time.
Hate to see that.
Okay, next, Sean, do you want to talk about, or Robin, Sean or Robin want to talk about moving the money from the ambulance account, Fund 651 to Fund 101?
Sean?
I just had a quick question that Chuck and I were talking before the meeting. So, with this, the corrected version was what, 209,000 that's gonna go into the general fund?
Correct.
Is that, is that money's gonna be used for the new police station on the buy down of those bonds? Or did we have that fulfilled with all the funds we transferred at the last meeting?
So we haven't identified the intent of those account closure funds yet.
Yeah.
So at the end of 2025, we'll have it on our assigned funds, like fund balance listing. You guys get that after, or like when we're presenting the audit, we list what our fund balances are designated for. So this would be a line item as one of the designated funds to say this was ambulance and now it's under the general fund. So it's not just gonna get commingled, but as far as a plan for that, that's still to be discussed if that's gonna go for police station contingency or potential needs for City Hall.
Yeah, so if you remember when we were kind of going through that, we discussed this is one of the fund sources for not having to borrow against contingency. This would be it. I guess my recommendation at this point was to continue to let that sit just to make sure that that project gets wrapped up and doesn't need the cash. And then afterwards, at that point, we would discuss of where this 209 would get designated, whether it's for City Hall repairs or whatever that may end up being in the future. But as of right now, there's not a specific location. This is just closing out the funds for the bookkeeping part, and then we'll keep track of it on the other side for the next few months while the police station's being completed.
What, I guess my other question would be, why didn't we do it on the last meeting when we did all the other ones? Why did we wait for this one specifically? I mean, we talk about not commingling funds, but it seems like if I had all that information on the last one, because I thought that covered the bonds, and now all of a sudden we're pulling this one out, it just seems makes me just a little suspicious.
I'll
That's the
honestly
type of
speak to, I forgot. It was just a change on the 26 budget that we took away Fund 651 and put it in the general fund. So full honesty of being human, I have a Post-it note throughout the year. I have to close these bond accounts. I have to close these really old accounts. And since we just made that change, it was something we talked about. Didn't make my special Post-it note list. And I think it was the day after the council meeting, I came to Josh and I said, I should have closed the ambulance fund as well, just to have it wrapped up.
Okay.
It wasn't on the auditor's radar either. It's a discussion for those funds we already did with the auditors. We go through like which accounts are kind of dormant. And this one wasn't on their radar either. Not trying to blame them at all.
Yeah.
But it just wasn't discussions because it's a new closure and new budgeting area.
And,
so.
and it wasn't dormant, like it was used in
Correct,
25 when they paid rent and then we had some expenses, and so,
Yeah, like we still had activity in
at
December.
the end of
25.
at the end of 25, this is a fully functioning fund.
Okay, great explanation, thank you, I appreciate that,
So,
sorry that I get a little,
so with the-
Error?
I made it.
so with
I
the
forgot.
expenses, when the police station's done and obviously the ambulance just has the 2 bays there with some offices, are they not gonna be charged, or there's not gonna be any expenses related to the ambulance fund anymore?
Yes.
Or it's gonna just be absorbed by the police station and fire station?
Yeah, so all of the revenues and expenses that were previously going into the ambulance fund have just been moved out into the general fund with the police and fire stations.
Okay.
I'd just like to reiterate the comment because it was understood and I think agreed upon by the council that this fund would be used to eliminate the need for such a high contingency on the budget for the police station. I can't recall the exact contingency amount. I want to say 600,000 or 700,000.
Something like that.
That we reduced the bond because we assigned this money plus a couple other areas that we would be able to use for contingency if needed. I'm hoping that so far we won't need any of it. So it was probably, hopefully, will be shown to be a very good decision that we made, hopefully. And if that occurs, then we have to decide what to do with the money. But I just want to make sure we remember that we did assign this as contingency, so we don't have the ability to use it today or to move it until the police station is wrapped up.
Yeah, and where I,
We did agree to that.
okay, and I don't doubt that. Where I got confused is that last meeting, rolling those funds together equaled the dollar amount that was equal to the first year's bond payment or close to it. And those two numbers I had in my head. And then all of a sudden now we got this other 209. And I just wanted to see why it wasn't all done at once, which I got a great explanation. So I didn't mean to imply that we were trying to do something that different. I just remember the numbers last week equaled or were similar to the prepay of the bond payments. So I thought that was wiped out. And now I just saw this one pop up.
Yeah.
So that's, I just want to clarify where I
Can't
was
remember
coming
all
from.
the numbers. I don't know what the first payment is, but I don't remember.
Okay, any other questions or clarifications on this? If not, I guess I'll look for a motion to approve resolution 26, CC-2603-16-0. I got a motion, by Rick Seiler, and I will second that. So motion by Rick Seiler, second by Chuck Nicolai to approve resolution number CC-26-03-16-03, transferring from Fund 651 to Fund 101. Any other questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? Okay, passes 5-0. General business. Are you gonna take this, Josh, the summer?
Yeah, I can take this. So as you may or may not remember, last year we did adjust city hall hours between Memorial Day and Labor Day, adding an extra hour on the front end, Monday through Thursday, and then just cutting the day short on Friday to kind of account for those hours. I know we kind of talked about how would that go, and we hadn't brought that back yet. So kind of looking at the data that we are able to keep, about 50% of the mornings last summer, we did have either an in-person counter interaction or at least one, if not many, phone interactions in the morning. Many days involve both. And quite frankly, this is just at the utility desk. I know speaking with Ken, his staff, that extra hour became invaluable when people would submit a permit late at night and then want to pick it up first thing in the morning, and allowed his staff time to actually be able to get that stuff done so they get working in the morning. So kind of as on terms of the actual closed hours on the afternoons, the impact, at least outwardly, seemed to be minimal. I don't know if you guys heard any complaints one way or the other. It did seem that people seemed to shift pretty quickly, to the point where once we did open up back again, people were confused that we were even open. Fridays tend to be our slowest days anyway, and the Friday afternoons are much slower than Friday mornings. So I would say kind of the comments we received, we didn't really receive many complaints, and we did have a number of people comment when they would call first thing in the morning, and we would actually pick up instead of having a voicemail to have to return to them. They seemed to be appreciative. I guess in my opinion, the shift seemed to be fairly positive in 2025, and I guess I would recommend we try it again for 26, kind of shifting back from Memorial Day to Labor Day, opening up an hour early and then just kind of cutting short on Fridays. And assuming it goes well again, maybe it just kind of becomes a permanent thing that during the summer we have those shifted hours that allow people with the increased sunrise, allow people to get in either before work, or contractors to get in first thing in the morning, because I know they tend to like to be in but not break their day up. So certainly take any questions forward, or if you guys had comments that went another way. I know, like I said, the comments that we received as staff generally were fairly positive from the community, so.
Okay, anyone have any comments for Sean? Or for Sean, God,
Geez, I asked
Why-
questions, but not every time. No, I did not have any
you move somewhere
complaints or
else.
anything about it. I'll make a
Sean.
motion that we approve the summer hours.
Yeah, I knew he was gonna do it.
I'll second it.
Okay, I got a motion by Sean Ryan, second by Maggie Bass to approve this summer hours again for 2026.
Aye.
There's no other questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? Passes 5-0. Police report.
John, you want to take this one too?
No,
Matt said he was interested, and if you guys wanted to.
Tim, I'll let Tim handle this one.
Oh, thank you. Wanted to provide, I think we've talked about in the past, kind of an overall snapshot of the police department on an annual basis. I don't know, at least in my time, that I've seen one of these before, so I thought it was important, and other agencies do it. Communities provide this to their councils, and their community for that matter, on what we're doing, how we're doing it, numbers, things like that. That being said, I did a lot of research and looking other police departments, bigger, smaller, everywhere in between, and this is what I came up with, and in some conversations with Josh, this is kind of what we landed on. If there are things that you would like to see more of, less of, specific things that I can speak to, I'm happy to do that moving forward. I don't know that I need to go through this slide by slide, but just, high level, we remain fairly consistent this year from last year. One notable is our calls were up from 7449 to 8139. Kind of spread out through our Part A and Part Bs throughout the year. One thing that we are noticing is the investigation part of our job is getting more difficult every day. That entails a lot of computer work, a lot of search warrants, a lot of forensic, a lot of digital world that everyone's living in now. So as you can imagine, finding those things and investigating these things becomes more difficult. It becomes more conversations, more paperwork, more digging. So with that, under the understanding that we have currently one detective, and it would be great if that's all the detective did, but she has other duties too. She runs our evidence along with another officer. She's part of the Scott County Sexual Assault Response Team, is on the Wellness Committee with the city, does a number of other things. So we're continuing to monitor that and look at how we can best serve the community in a timely fashion and a thorough fashion at the same time. I don't want to get into a position where we have to make somebody wait an extended period of time to get a response from an investigator if that's the case. So that's one thing that we're continuing to monitor. As you can see, our organizational chart is in there. We have the chief, the record staff, and then we have 2 patrol sergeants who oversee the patrol officers. They work in 2 different teams, so when one team is on, the other team is off. That allows that other supervisor then to have that time off, and the officers that are working contact that supervisor that is on their team. So that has worked really well for our supervisors. Currently, we're authorized for 12. We have 11 right now. We are one short. Currently working through a background investigation right now, with no issues thus far, so hopefully we were able to move forward. The 2 civilian records position, the one is a full-time and the other is a 3/4 position that we identified a few years ago, by utilizing our resources and identifying that we could utilize that 3/4 position and save the time and salary there. So a little bit on our patrol, our detectives, in our SRO. We are part of the Tri-County SWAT team. We have 1 member on there. We are members of the Southwest Metro Drug Task Force and the Cannon River Drug and Violent Offender Task Force, which allows us to work both the Scott County and the Lee Seward County side. So we're, again, unique in that we have the two counties that we work with, 2 sheriff's offices, 2 human services, 2 everything. So it is a unique situation that we're in, and very few other agencies are in, but we we work well with all of those agencies in developing those relationships with those people when we need them, so. I also included some information on the vandalisms in parks. We tracked that this summer since we put the cameras were installed from May through October. You can see those numbers and the costs associated with some of the damages in the parks. Some of the unreported incidents are damages that we know happened that didn't get reported to us for whatever reason, and we have since fixed that with the parks and the city staff. So anything that happens there now gets reported to us. So I would have a much clearer picture of that at this time next year. And then we have discussed kind of at length here the flock cameras. So some examples of cases that we have worked on and had some success with. So you can see that both locally and I mean even out of state, there are some things that are happening that people from out of state are coming in here, and contrary to popular belief, there are some bad people that come through New Prague, whether we want to like that or not. That's just the reality. So I would take any questions, concerns, anything that I can answer.
The LPR license plate reader I see, what is the Condor?
Those are the ones that are in the parks.
Oh,
So those don't have an LPR on them.
Okay.
They don't read license plates. Those are just the cameras that capture the activity there.
okay.
I just have a few questions on the page 330. I think it talks about traffic accidents. Okay, curious if the number 128 seems like a big number. Is there a concentration in certain area of town that we get the bulk of our traffic accidents out of that 128?
We see more on the heavily traveled roads, so we respond to more accidents on Highway 19, 21, 37, and then we do get a fair amount around the high school area too, just with the inexperienced drivers and the activity that goes on there during the school year. So those are probably our main areas of the most that we respond to. Obviously, there are accidents that happen all over the community, but the majority of them happen in those areas.
I appreciate that. In a lot of these, you show the history from prior year to this year. In that area of traffic accidents, you mentioned the 6 personal injury. Do you know if the severity of the injuries in the last year or two have gotten more severe or less over time, and or are they always kind of the same?
You know, it varies from year to year. I don't think that
There's a trend at all?
a trend. I know across the state and across the country, with the devices, that's been the cell phones and distractions in the vehicles. That's been a big push throughout the state and the country to enforce that. The distracted and the impaired driving leads to a majority of the crashes, and especially the fatal crashes that happen in the state. So that is tracked by the state, and we get those numbers from Office of Traffic Safety every month. Those numbers, those fatality numbers, and the contributing factors to those crashes. And at the end of the year, that's maybe a good note that I could include that for the year end for next year, to include those numbers in this report too.
The section talking about Group A and Group B, I was just wondering, is Group A and Group B a standardized definition
Yeah.
in law enforcement?
Yeah.
So
That's
I
how,
would-
yes, that's how we have to report the crimes every year to the FBI. We have to report those crimes as A and B, and then they separate those out into the groups.
So we could compare ourselves with other communities our size and say we've got more Group A, less Group A, and you have this many of that type
Correct.
of thing?
Yep.
When people consider someone a safe community, is that how you measure it? Or how do you measure what's a safe community? Or do people even have such a thing?
There are different metrics to that. It's how you want to quantify, you know, when you think about Part A and Part B crimes, what is the drug violation, right? Was it a possession or was it a big drug ring, right? So that could still quantify as a a drug violation or an assault? Was it a first-degree felony assault, or was it somebody punched somebody in the face and it was a fifth-degree assault? So I think when you start to look at how bad is it, yes, you can compare these numbers, Part A and Part B, but I think in order to compare yourself apples to apples, you need to break down those numbers with the city you're comparing to see what exactly those cases entailed and were they charged out and what were the, I guess what was the details of that incident, does that make sense?
Yeah. In the records area, do these requests for data or records, does this include for investigations? Like, would these include requests from prosecutors?
No.
Okay, so these are just
Yeah, that's not a
not
request.
involved in the case, request for data or records.
Right, this is just records requests
So
and,
it could be the individual involved in an incident
It could.
requesting that.
yep,
Okay.
yep, it could.
And then I was curious on the Tri-City SWAT, how much time is involved in the person that's dedicated to that? Our person on that?
They train monthly, so they have a training day. It's the second Tuesday, I believe. Don't quote me on that, but I believe it's the second Tuesday of every month. They have a training, and then they do a week-long training, or a 4-day training, as a team down in Camp Dodge, down in Iowa. So they do that, and then any call-outs, they have Tier 1 and Tier 2 call-outs. So the Tier 1 is a full call-out, barricaded subject that would require a full SWAT team to come out. And then the Tier 2, they'll do some warrants with Drug Task Force, or if they're looking for somebody that doesn't require a full team, but they want some tactically trained officers, they just go in their uniforms and they assist with those types of warrants or arrests.
And just to piggyback on your comment, I think sometimes when I talk to people, they don't always kind of figure into their thinking that New Prague has changed quite a bit as far as the amount of people that drive through.
Right.
Our traffic, and to our credit, it's valuable that we do have traffic because it means the reason why we have 2 quick trips. For someone to invest millions of dollars in not one, but 2 of them, they're looking at numbers of cars that drive through.
Right.
And the other issue that's changed in our dynamic in New Prague is that we have a couple more retail or shops that are destination shops in the fact of Coburn's and Hy-Vee, where we have many more people that come from outside the city limits coming in that don't actually live in our area. So our police are servicing a much greater population than just the city to protect the city, if that's kind of
Yes.
an air way of saying that.
I would agree wholeheartedly with that.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions for Tim? Tim, thank you for the information. I think it was very valuable, and I would hope you'd continue doing that annually for
Yeah,
the
like I said,
council.
let me know if there are changes or things that you would like to see. Just one brief addition to that is we did have our body cam and our license plate reader audit on the 10th. So that was completed, and our auditor, I was not in the room, but when I came back, one of the sergeants had made the comment that our auditor commented that she was gonna send more agencies to us so we could train them how to do this, so they're better prepared. So credit to those guys that got that ready and their information and everything prepared for them, and we'll wait to hear the results, and I'll be happy to share those with you when we receive them, so.
All right, well, good, thank you. Josh, are you gonna take the IT? I could ask Sean, but I'm gonna move on.
I can,
You
but,
can, or you can have Ken?
well, I would say I can, but Ken wrote the memo, so I gotta make
Oh.
sure I say that correctly, so.
Yes.
Ken, you can.
Or you can, no, I can give a background. I forget who all was on the council back in 2019, but before we had a contract.
I think it was the.
Was it everybody?
Yeah.
All right, we'll go with that. Anyway, if you remember back in 2019 then, we did not have a contract for managed IT services at that time. We had been using just a couple of individuals that eventually led into a company called CIT. And then we were looking for kind of a longer-term solution. But 2019, we contracted with a firm called True North Consulting Group at the urging and recommendation of the League of Minnesota Cities to help us kind of determine our technology needs. Back in 2019, we were looking to rewire all of our buildings, put in wireless access points, and kind of completely refresh everything at that time. So through that RFP process back in 2019, that was about a $20,000 contract to have True North help us with that at that time. We ended up in 2020, actually late 2019, and then implementing in early 2020, right before COVID hit, a contract with CTS out of North Mankato to do managed IT. And then additionally, they did all of our rewiring, added these wireless access points throughout City Hall and a number of other improvements to our IT services that we were not receiving or receiving, and just making sure we had them kind of packaged together from one firm. You know, it's been 6 years, almost right on the nose here, because I think COVID hit about March of 2020. And that was right when CTS was implementing our new equipment and getting our wiring done. And we just wanted to make sure that in the course of that 6-year time period, are we getting the service that we should be getting, basically reevaluating our needs. And in order to do that, felt it would be appropriate to put another RFP out to managed IT service providers, whether that be CTS resubmitting or other firms that might be interested in providing the service to the city of New Prague. The one thing we talked about even back in 2019 was we do not have anybody on staff that's a true IT professional. You know, we all know a little bit about our areas, but as a whole, we're not experts in the field. And in order to write an RFP, I think the last RFP was probably close to 100 pages, if I remember correctly. I don't think any of us could do a good service of writing one up and hoping that it met all of our needs and getting that out for proposals. So we reached back out to the league and asked what they knew of firms in the area. And we also reached out to our former True North Consulting Group, who has been bought out, now is known as PMY. And those are really the only two firms that we could find that do this type of work to help write an RFP for municipal agencies to find a managed IT service provider. So the two proposals we got were obviously significantly higher than in 2019, when we only had to pay about $20,000 for the work. PMY was touch over $43,000, and Quintillion Consulting was right at $32,000 even. We did put the two proposals in the packet for you to review. They're very similar. There's not much variation in that, and these firms are the two of the very few that even do this type of work anymore. But ultimately, Quintillion has the lower cost. They came highly recommended by the League of Minnesota Cities, who has been utilizing them more recently for projects that they have internally, and they are also recommending them to other cities as well. But basically what this would do is provide the drafting and helping the city and ultimately present a recommendation to the city council on a possibly new managed IT services provider. Could also obviously lead to the same provider that we have currently, but may have a different look in the type of managed IT services that we are provided ultimately in what we need. I think probably one of the biggest things that gets brought up quite a bit is we do not currently have 24-hour coverage for IT issues for the police department. That is kind of a continual issue, I would say. Tim could probably speak to that a little more, but over time, that's become more and more of an issue. So this would help get us some of those items incorporated into a new managed IT services RFP. And I don't know other Josh, Robin, if you have anything else to add to that, but I wouldn't say we've been unhappy with CTS, but, you know, obviously as we have grown into, we never had a managed IT services provider prior to CTS. It's kind of a check and balance in a way to make sure that we're getting that value, and are there things that, you know, we're missing out on? You know, technology changes quickly. You know, what else should we be looking at out there that we just aren't thinking of because we're not in the field?
Yeah, very similar to, I mean, we did our city engineer a few years ago. I think we did our financial advisor last year, and IT was just kind of next on the docket almost, so. Yeah, certainly stand for any questions. I know, like, as we've talked about, even coming this year for the 2026 budget, we did budget a certain IT that we weren't necessarily planning on spending all this year. Some of that comes into savings for future unexpected costs and or future known costs, such as every 4 or 5 years when you're looking at upgrading server equipment instead of paying for all that in 1 year. So we do have kind of designated IT dollars already set aside within our current budget that would be able to handle this.
Do we have a current contract with CTS?
Yes, we do have a current contract with CTS. I'm trying to remember the exact language on what it's at this point, it's a rolling contract with
Okay.
with a just time period to get out. I believe it's 90 days or 60 days or something like that. I can't remember off the top of my head, but we did look that up. But yeah,
So it's an automatic renewal only with a 90-day or 60 to 90
so
day
yeah,
out.
something like that.
What is that costing us a year?
I believe right now,
Roughly.
yeah, I'm just trying to think. You look at the bill every month. I believe it's a little over $12,000 a month we pay for.
I think it's about 13,000.
$13,000 a month for basic services. That doesn't include, as Ken mentioned, outside of customary work hours. So if a patrol officer who only works at nights has a problem, we have to pay like emergency rates for that. I would, as Ken mentioned, I would hope with this, if nothing else, we'll maybe almost run 2 contracts, 1 contract for the police department, 1 contract for the rest of the city to hopefully handle some of that off work hours. But yeah, I believe right now the standard monthly bill is a little over $13,000 a month.
So Tim, is CTS doing all the wiring and everything at the police station?
Yes,
Okay.
their portion of it, yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, I guess I'll look for a motion to approve the recommendation to go with, what is it? Quintillan Consulting to help us write an RFP for our IT services.
I'll make a motion to approve the proposal from Quintillion Consulting in the amount of $32,000.
Second.
Okay, a motion by Maggie Bass, second by Rick Seiler. If there's no other questions, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? Okay, passes 5-0. Next is the ambulance thing, and I think, Josh, you're gonna take this?
Yes, I can take this unless Sean wants to. No, I'm gonna run that joke into the ground. So I did include the update.
We're gonna change your name.
That's fair. Usually Jeff. I did include, so we met with the ambulance for our quarterly meeting on Friday afternoon after the packet had already gone out, so I didn't want to have Alyssa have to re-release the packet again. But I did include their kind of year-end update in paper on there. It has also now been included on the digital version, if you want to go grab it there. But basically, we met them real quick at the end of 2025 and went over the year. Generally, it looks like call volumes are down, but it is how they are trying to keep track of actual calls within cities. They used to keep track of their calls based on the truck that was supposed to be in New Prague, how many calls that truck was doing. But if that truck ended up in Mankato after a transport and then got a call and could do 2 or 3 calls in Mankato before coming back, in the old days that would count as New Prague stats. Now they're keeping New Prague stats in New Prague. All that to say, you go to the end of their update. This year, they are looking at about $520,000 loss in New Prague. I bring that up because as we got to discussing about their potential with our, I'm stumbling over all my words, current agreements expiring in May 1st. They really have only one ask, I guess, changed. They'd like a slightly longer contract. According to them, their finance team likes a little more written stability. And they are also requesting that, I guess, the rent and utilities at the facility be waived. Their request comes off of the fact that they have had a couple bad years just generally across the board. And I know as anecdotally, as I've been involved with ambulance both here and at my prior job, you are hearing more and more where ambulance services are actually requesting a small, basically stipend for being able to provide services. And I was straight out asked, is that something you could be requesting this year? And they said, no, we don't plan on requesting that with the next contract. We don't think we're there where we need something like that yet, but so to that end, the contract that I included in your packet does basically change to a 10-year. They would request anywhere from a 5-year to a 10-year. Even though it is 10 years, it does still provide language both for the city and for North to get out of the contract at any time throughout. For any reason, you'd have a 365-day out. If for some reason there was insufficient levels of ambulance service or Maggie would know the term, not meeting the terms of the agreement, we would have a 90-day out period built into the contract. I did also include a draft of the potential new facility lease, basically with their request to eliminate rent payments and utility payments within there. And I guess my recommendation being, as I look at it, I know that speaking with both Chief Applin and Chief Rinda, they do thoroughly enjoy working with North Memorial. I know Chief Rinda tells horror stories, and I'm sure Tim could as well, of speaking with their colleagues in other cities, working with other potential ambulance services. We seem to have it good here. And knowing that other communities are going so far as to having a small adder onto every utility bill or something like that to help support an ambulance. In my opinion, the good relationship we have with them and that they seem to work well in our community with the small cost of them not having to pay rent to continue that relationship, I guess to me makes sense. I don't know. I know, Chuck, you've sat in on a few meetings now with them. If you've got any other commentary to add, I guess.
Right, I mean, the reason for the 5 or 10 years, that's how they budget their capital equipment in 5-year increments. So that's why, instead of the 3-year that we currently have, that they would would like 5, obviously a 10 would mean a little bit more longevity for them to do the capital equipment type of budgeting items. I know Josh did talk to, God dang it, it's a mental block now. Josh did ask him, how do you, continue to function with, losing money? And he said what the CEO and the president of North Memorial feels that it's their obligation to make sure everyone has a vehicle or someone to get them to, when they're in need, to get them to a facility. And
Yeah, I mean, he was honest. He said it's a combination of that. It is a combination of, they obviously don't want competitors coming into
Right.
territories they currently hold. And I think, off the records, they've spoken past meetings about hopes that some sort of legislation at the state or even federal level starts to make this palatable again. I know a large majority of their revenue comes from Medicare and Medicaid payments, and they make very, 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 very little on those Medicare, and they don't cover their costs when the federal government reimburses them for runs. So I know that they continue to hope that something can happen there too, to once again make it more palatable, I guess. But yeah, he was honest. He said if for some reason we have this contract, a lot of their people like living here. Like he didn't know if they'd continue to work for them if for some reason didn't. So there did seem to be a real desire to figure out how they could continue to operate here.
And I know in the past that we have had struggles of, the term of the contract. It was 2 years, 3 years, and then we had some negotiations with another potential provider. And so I guess in my eyes, I'm happy to see the length of the contract going out 10 years. I think it's a very valuable service to New Prague.
Well, we had a public hearing though when we went to 3 years, didn't we?
Well,
It's like we
so
had
There
people from
was,
the public.
there was public comment, yes.
yeah, going back to that, we took public comment. We ultimately stayed with North at that time because while there were opinions on both sides of people who thought we should go somewhere, both of our chiefs at the time, they liked working with North. Like there were really no reasons to not continue working with North at the time. And then I think, if I'm remembering right, the council basically said, well, why don't we do this for 3 years? And if something's not going well, we can make the change at that point. And I guess everything that I've seen at this point, things have gone very well, which is why I have no problem recommending a much longer term. And as I said, there is language in there that allows an out if for some reason it does go sour on us.
Your previous comments mentioning about competition, keep competition out of the area, seems inconcurrent with the previous comments about substantial loss and why would you stay in that type of thing. So the previous renewal was a very difficult circumstance and situation for a lot of different people. And it was, I still have scars from that, but so I know that we went through that process. Part of it back then, North Memorial had costs that were attributable to North Memorial administration in there. And so I don't know if any of that's still the case now, but that's how it was explained to me back then. So this could very well have changed. I think they did change how they accounted. And all of this is really compensation for people that actually live in or work in New Prague. I don't know that, or if we're paying for support from North Memorial Hospital and all that. I don't know the details. I'm not sure the number is going to change that much, even if it does, because it's been a very difficult industry to work in. I think we even approved an application for a grant for them a couple years ago. I think that they received money from the state of Minnesota that we helped them facilitate to get it. So the dynamics have changed quite a bit in 3 years to the negative side for this kind of industry. But that makes me think too, there's constantly work trying to be done to improve it, and certainly in the outstate areas of Minnesota. So what it's going to be like 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 4 years from now, I don't know, but I'm kind of thinking there may be some changes since things have changed in 3 years. So that's why I'm a little reluctant on a 10-year lease to try to support something like that, when our previous agreement was 3 years. I think that's too short. But this rental agreement, I didn't see in this verbiage that we have the opportunity to get out, except for 6 months or something before the expiration. So I may have missed that, but I just didn't see it. And I think you're referring to the agreement for ambulance services, which is a separate agreement, correct?
Yep, so I've got
And we can get out of that in a certain amount of time.
Yep, so I've got 2 agreements in your packet. If you go to the lease facility agreement, and I'll say that because I know you guys are looking at one big PDF and I look at little ones, so I don't have the page number.
Oh, yeah, there it is.
It says, yeah, section 6 under termination, if it either will terminate 10 years from now, or if the tenant ceases to provide ambulance services.
359.
But that doesn't provide the city to terminate for any particular.
Well, so if you then go to the if the city terminates the ambulance services in the other agreement, I believe that is section 6 in the services agreement. It does provide that any party may terminate the services agreement with 365-day notice, or 90-day notice if they break some term of the agreement. And then the lease contract is then linked to that. So if they're no longer providing services, the lease contract automatically terminates. Now, to that point, Bruce, with this long of an agreement, maybe it makes sense to say, hey, maybe we do a services agreement for 10 years, but a building lease agreement for 5 years. And so we can reevaluate the situation 5 years from now, and if things are looking healthier at that point, maybe we can, say, look at rent again or whatever it would be. I don't think the building lease agreement has to necessarily follow along with the services agreement, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
but they're connected, I mean,
Yeah, I guess I'm not sure why you wouldn't want them to be the same.
Well, only that you were talking about, like, if the status of the industry changes and maybe they're getting reimbursed a lot more for Medicare 2 years from now, and now they are better able to float a rent payment. We're services are going for 10 years, but in 5 years, we'll look at the lease agreement again, and maybe in 5 years, we will start charging them rent and enter into another 5-year lease for the 2 bays. And that's all I was saying for that. And so it kind of looks at the potential lease agreement halfway through the services agreement.
Well, I can't speak from experience and understanding the financials of all this. I'm aware of the difficulties and some of the challenges they have, but at the same time, looking for the residents of New Prague. When we built the police station, we had made overtures that we need to renegotiate the lease, increasing the lease payments because of the new building and the facilities. To turn around in this short period of time and think that we're not gonna charge anything, it seems to be a gigantic step to, regardless if it's $500,000 or $5 loss. If they've been paying it and concerned about not losing the competition for it, I think at the least it deserves a little more due diligence, I guess, on it. Or I guess I need a better explanation as to why we wouldn't charge any rent for it. But
yeah, when we were working on this last time, we wanted to see their numbers or something like that, and, they denied it. Now, are their numbers, they're reporting that they lost money off of us this year, or, right now. How can we even tell that? I mean, say, I didn't make as much money last year, so you guys are gonna pay more now.
I guess, Rick, that's just part of our agreement with them. I know they even mentioned that they get audited. What did they say, Chuck? 3, 4 5 different agencies audit them
Yes.
annually, just due to the business they're in, I guess. And so, I mean, the numbers that they're giving us, allegedly, I mean, according to our agreement, they'll share that financial information that they do with us quarterly as to where they're at. And so, short of us, I guess, auditing them to verify their numbers like that, I feel like that's what we'd have to do if that's kind of the comment you're making. I don't know what that would even cost, or whether, like, they wouldn't have to necessarily come to an audit from us. And I guess to me, Bruce, the relationship that we've had with North, knowing the troubles in the industry, the amount of money that it is kind of in total, like I said, what is it? $15,000 a year, or just under that, is why I guess I am okay maintaining that relationship to help keep them in New Prague. I guess that's just kind of where I stand on that. Like I said, I know talking to both Steve and Tim, they had nothing but great things to say about North Memorial, and wanting to try to keep that relationship as well.
Who was involved in the discussions with North Memorial about the lease agreement?
The 4 of us kind of talked about with them at their meeting on Friday.
The four who?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Myself, Chief Applin, Chief Rinda, and Chuck was there as well.
Okay, thank you.
so you've come to the conclusion that you can't keep the rental payment the same, that they would walk away?
I haven't come to that exact conclusion. I guess
That was the only thing they were asking.
That was the only thing that they were asking for was
They
the
weren't
rental.
asking for any other stipend or anything at this time.
Right.
Could we waive them for a year and,
Well, I mean,
I don't like doing it either.
well, I'm.
Well, yeah,
running a
I know,
brand-
looking back at the last one, I think their request was just that it holds steady, to what we, if you remember right, last time, 3 years ago, I think their one request for the building was that we hold rent steady at what they had been paying, that they, cause we'd kinda gone back and forth a little bit about raising it at that point, and they basically, they, I think at that time, they had kinda said, well, if the rent goes up, then we don't know if we can make this work, and they would just keep a truck in town.
Right, and they
without-
said
without it being
they
in
were
a
gonna
garage.
think about building their own building and getting a different spot, and they went through that exercise too, and they said they were gonna do that. That they were not gonna use our facility at a certain period of time too, after that discussion too, so. You know, it's, in a short period of time, 3 years, there's been a lot of things talked about and deliberated about, but.
Yeah,
If they were gonna build a new building or rent a new building from someone that was gonna build it, I think at the time.
Yeah, see, if I remember right from that conversation, when we had gone back to them about raising the rent, that is when they'd begun exploring, well,
Right.
does it make sense otherwise? And we ultimately kept rent the same, and for them, it didn't make sense, they couldn't work the financial numbers to find anywhere, like, I would say even at this rate, they're probably getting a subsidized rate for where they're parking their ambulances, like that, it's just, it is.
Well, I think that's agreed
Yes.
upon by everyone.
Yep.
That it, before and after. But when we started discussion on the police building, I thought you and the mayor, Mayor Dwayne at the time, were gonna have conversations with them during the building about raising the rent.
And yeah,
Because we're providing the new facilities. Did those discussions ever happen?
they happened I will say, very lightly, I guess, like, it was floated a couple times, and it was always kind of floated back that, yeah, we can certainly look at it, but I don't know if it's gonna happen, and that's where finally, yeah, they came back with the request of, obviously, we are requesting it actually goes down due to our numbers.
Don't you remember me getting mad saying, well, what are you gonna sit down at Coburn's parking lot like a taxi and then go to each call? I mean,
So yes, I did mention to them about the possibility of raising a rent, and their response was, our one request is to lower the rent due to the cost, which I'm assuming like they would not want to increase.
Right, I'm just
Yeah.
surprised because we've only started building the police station not that long ago, and if we had the discussion about the next contract renewal, we're interested in at least raising it a little bit to go from that discussion about a year ago to we want nothing. It doesn't seem to fit in my mind that you'd come to the table. It seems like we're two ships sailing in this, you know, apart from each other, something just doesn't add up there, but,
maybe that was the way they deferred, so that we didn't raise the rent. Tyrone claim we're broke.
Did you say these numbers were specific to New Prague, or?
Yeah,
So, yeah, the 2025 numbers,
Okay.
yes, for like the calls and whatnot, 2025 is specific to New Prague. For the 2024 run numbers, those were the numbers for trucks that were stationed in New Prague.
Okay. And is their ambulance service area still the same? I mean, do they go all the way to Vesely and Union Hill and Heidelberg and Cedar Lake and?
Yes, they do.
So this map is correct in here, this part of it.
Correct, yes.
So is there a breakdown of how many come outside of that? I'm just wondering if we should do something like with the rural, or they do something with the rural fire board where they should be paying some of that. Why does that fall on the backs of New Prague? Because over and above the $1,500 rent, there's heat, there's air conditioning. I don't know what kind of wear and tear they put on the building with the car backing in and out. You know, is there special, exhaust fans and whatever else that, you know, there's much more than just the rent. I mean, it'd be nice to have that full amount. I mean, is it $300 a month to heat and $300 a month to cool? And
Yeah, I don't have that exact number, exactly what obviously that area will take for utilities per se. Yeah, I will say, yeah, so going back to those run numbers, 2024, if a truck started its morning in New Prague, all of its runs for the day got sent back to what is considered our it's called a PSA, our service area. If it went to Faribault on a run and then happened to get call and be the closest call, it might do a pickup in Faribault and stay there half the day before it comes back. And like they'd rotate somebody around and, but the 2024 numbers tracked that original truck and every run it did came back to the New Prague area. Now the new one, if that truck leaves the New Prague area, the one that takes its place responds to a call in New Prague. Now that, only that response in the New Prague area comes back to us. In terms of working with the rural, like we could certainly contact rural fire, or I guess there's not really a board per se set up for the ambulance, and I don't think it probably follows the fire district exactly, in that it's kind of broken up like a lot of ambulances. I mean, I think our service area is the same as it was 20 years ago when New Prague City ran the ambulance. They responded all within that service area. That's kind of how the state breaks them up. So
I think that was statutory, I think that was done by the state, maybe not by statute.
yeah, I think the state basically decides what the service area is.
Your example then, if the rig leaves New Prague, picks somebody up in Lonsdale and delivers them to Northfield, would that be on New Prague's number or?
Without looking at the map, if it is within, if where it picks up the person is within the service area, it's considered a New Prague pickup. If it picks up a person outside of the New Prague service area, it goes to that service area. So they might drive them to Mankato or Northfield or whatnot, because that is where the care is needed, but that's still considered a New Prague run. If they get picked up in Montgomery, which is part of the Montgomery area, and driven back to New Prague, that pickup would then go to the Montgomery area.
Do they service
No.
I don't think they do. In that instance, if it was like a.
Right, but they have a rigs in Faribault, I believe.
Correct.
Faribault,
they-
Waseca, and New Prague is our region.
Yeah, they have rigs in Faribault. So yeah, if they picked up someone in Faribault and had to bring them up to New Prague, that's a Faribault run, not a New Prague run.
But if they pick them up in Lonsdale and deliver them to New Prague, that Faribault run is the New Prague count.
Yeah, so yeah, if that Faribault truck drives up here and while it's up here, then picks up someone in Lonsdale and brings them back, that second pickup becomes a New Prague pickup.
Where before they were just whoever truck it was.
Well, I support Sean's idea. I think that's a good idea, that no longer is this a thing that we can, I mean, we don't have to be the entity that decides the ambulance service. We choose to want to keep that ability, but the economics of it, if they're going backwards on us, and we're servicing a much bigger area than the residents of New Prague. I mean, it seems fair to see if other people in the service area can help pay for it. Besides just the residents of New Prague.
So I will say this, if you look within the agreement, one thing I took out was section 6, referencing an advisory committee. There are communities that have an ambulance advisory board, similar to a park board or a planning commission, that kind of oversee the ambulance service area. And maybe kind of the recreation of that board, and I don't think it necessarily belongs in this agreement per se. Maybe the recreation of that board becomes a way of reaching out to the townships that are involved and trying to create more of almost a joint powers board then that would oversee something like that. Because that becomes the question of how you are making that happen. Any sort of support from somebody outside of New Prague, you're having to get a governmental entity on board with figuring that support out, because it isn't a perfectly drawn line of you could follow the townships or you could follow the fire district. It's its own lines, and we'd have to figure out how, and I'm not saying no, I'm just saying we'd need to figure out how to encapsulate the people within that line.
It is, I mean, when we went through this before, and believe me, I talked to the legislators, a lot of people about this at the time, it's kind of an odd thing. The residents of New Prague can decide the service for an area outside of our area. So it is an odd.
At a previous position, we had a city who was very upset because they were 3 times our size, and yet we ran the ambulance for them, and they did not appreciate that.
Well, according to the map, it's 147 square miles is their service area on page 365.
And that's what I think the state gave us, right? When we had our own.
Correct.
So we were told, don't ever give up your territory.
Yeah, I
But
think
I recall way
he-
back when, the mail, this must have been, what, late 2018, when we signed a contract, mail came in and they wanted it.
Yeah, you were here for that,
Yeah, but I wasn't here for the last,
the last one.
and I remember that was, the thing was, hey, you know, you don't want to give up your territory.
and I'll even say that as I listened to a few years ago, Mayo was saying, why do you guys even want that? Like, we'll take it off of your hands. And like, I've had past colleagues that tell me, no, don't ever give it up. North Memorial has told us, like, don't give this up. Like, it's the territory that people want.
And what's the value of it now if the economics aren't there? Is it just that we can decide who gets it?
I think it's the slight control of we get to decide who serves it. Like, theoretically, if Ken Ondich started Ken Ondich Ambulance and we gave Ken Ondich Ambulance our territory, and maybe he decides, well, I can't make the numbers work, so I'm just gonna run one ambulance 4 hours a day. Or there's certainly I don't know what the state minimums are, but if that's the minimum and that's all he decides to run the ambulance, basically then we get a lot of aid calls. Like, we start having other ambulance services have to respond to us. Or if maybe Ken then picks up a second one, but he keeps his ambulance up in Shakopee, we are then at the whims of having to wait 30 minutes for an ambulance to show up from Shakopee, where when we have control of the territory, we get to decide
I hate to
who is servicing that.
disappoint you there, Bud, but we got Mayo ambulance service right there, a block away.
We have Mayo Hospital.
We don't have Mayo
Mayo
We
ambulance.
could
ambulance.
use their ambulance service, they have one.
We've been down that path before.
But I don't know, I don't think they would dedicate an ambulance in town.
Yeah, so I guess I'll
That
say
was
this.
the issue that we had before with Mayo.
Oh, no
yeah.
question they would.
Yeah.
No question.
Yeah, I'll say this, when I was at my previous job in Dodge Center, we were 20 miles away from Mother Mayo, as it was referred to. And they wanted our ambulance service, and we were told, don't give it up. Like, Mayo may hang out in town, but if the numbers start going south, they'll just start sending an ambulance from Rochester. They'll stop housing the ambulance in Dodge Center. So that would be the one thing that I'd fear of us giving it up, is we no longer control where that ambulance comes from to service our territory.
I'm not advocating we change.
Yeah.
I don't know anything derogatory, and I think they do a good service, and I'm not advocating anything as far as the service. But just to be clear, we had two proposals, and Mayo's proposal did provide for a full rental of the property and service of units and dedicated units on site in our city. So that, there was not a question about that. And actually, after, I think you went back to Mayo because we wanted to take another run at it. I think it was you.
Yep, I think it was him too.
And I don't think they appreciated being rebuffed, and
They were not interested at that time.
so we ended up taking maybe less than what the city had wanted to take. So as far as the service, there could have been arguments made that they would have provided a few more whistles and bells, but the city council unanimously approved renewing it with them.
I say give them the 5 years that they're requesting, and that's it.
What, they're asking for 10.
Well, 5 or 10,
I was gonna say, they said 5 to 10, I just put 10 in here.
just because
Just so we don't have to deal with it again in 5 years, but if we'd prefer 5 years, we certainly can.
I mean, eventually, if they don't turn things around, either they'll drop us or they're gonna ask for some compensation to have the service, in my opinion. I mean, I do like your idea, Sean, of, you know, it's like no different than our fire department. It's like, you know, we're servicing more than the city of New Prague. You know, they're going out to, you know, Vesely, Lonsdale, Union Hill, and they're getting that all for free. You know, and it's just Medicare or Medicaid or their insurance that's paying for it, but that's not.
Wouldn't, North have to charge them instead of us? you know, if Lonsdale wants in on the deal, you know what I
They,
mean?
so North gets entirely paid by whoever it services. So
Right.
whether it's an insurance company or private payer, there's, at this point, within the New Prague service area, there's no fee going
We're
from
talking
New
about the
Prague to
rent
them.
though, we're talking about the other cities putting in on the rent, isn't that correct?
Well.
Cause they're not gonna do anything for Medicare or all of that, I mean, they're not even gonna deal with that.
No, but it's just like the fire department, they, since there's not expenses per se, there would be some kind of stipend that would eventually go towards North Memorial to offset these losses of $500,000. Or 500 million, I guess.
And or the expenses that the city of New Prague incurs with our new building and.
Right, rent.
You know, kind of like the fire department, you know, their rural association pays for some half of certain fire trucks and this and that. And I don't know who you talk to, I mean, you have to talk, again, if it's not a clean thing, I mean, are you, you know, cause they said what did they say, that we're 10 miles too far into Scott County, so we're getting kind of penalized on some grant money?
Yeah, basically,
'Cause that's-
there's grant money for outstate Minnesota, but because we're 10 miles into Scott County, we don't classify as outstate Minnesota.
So we got, and that's for some new equipment and things like that, so that's stuff that they're gonna have to belly up on.
What if we were to make both agreements, the end date 5 years out instead of 10 years out, and then have discussions with Heidelberg and Landsberg Township and the other townships to discuss the cost of us housing the ambulances here in New Prague at our police station, but yet they're getting serviced. And just open up those conversations and see where it can go.
I think the rural fire board, you could make that decision and tack on a $2 fee at next, you know, per address or whatever it is.
Yeah, I don't know what they,
Yeah, I guess I would have to look and see how the rural overlays with this and it, cause I would imagine if there's any residents in the rural that aren't within the ambulance, or obviously they're gonna fight that, but,
I don't know, there hasn't,
Covers 43 more square miles than our fire district.
oh, it does. Oh.
Well, I don't think, I like the idea. I don't know that you can get it exact. We're talking about a stipend, which isn't a levy issue. It's a little different than that, so it doesn't have to match up, in my mind, if someone wants to volunteer and support. If Helena Township wants to support it, or whatever township, or whichever. I don't think they're gonna be, I mean, it's obviously up to them, but I don't know that they'd be levying a direct levy for this purpose.
yeah.
I don't know how they would pay a stipend.
yeah, I don't know how they do the rural.
Yeah, I'm not sure how they.
I thought it was just a yearly fee that
That
they pay every whatever month.
Property staff.
And you get the blue sign with the number on it and you're in. So
Yeah, I don't know.
if it's
how-
$150 a year, they make it 155 and 5 of it goes to the ambulance service or tie it in. I don't know if we legally can do it or whatever else. I'm just thinking, I don't know if we'd have to go to each individual township and each individual city and try to coordinate all that. Cause that seems like it'd be a lot of work for,
Yeah,
which
so,
isn't necessarily a lot of money, but it's,
I mean, it looks like basically
Fair
the
thing.
only cities really is Heidelberg and Vesely, right?
in Union Hill.
Oh, that's right, it's not Union Hill and St. Bennett, but I think it's from the township though.
Yeah, Helena and they're all covered, yeah.
Right. I mean, I think that's something we should explore. But if we're gonna explore that, do we tell North, hey, we'd like to keep the rental as is, but we're gonna explore do we give them a time frame within a year that a decision will be made, with the townships that they're gonna start paying a fee to the city, which will then get given to North Memorial for having that service?
Or just put towards the expenses.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too, heating, air conditioning and, all of that toward the expense that New Prague is having to pay for the 2 bays and the offices.
But what if it's more than that?
Well, it sounds like they agree to pay utilities.
They didn't specifically mention utilities. I made the assumption that it was included in there, that they didn't wanna pay it, but so within here, I took the utility payment out as well, but we can certainly leave that in too.
That was my thought on it as well, that they're gonna be in there for free.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's,
Across the board.
yeah,
I thought the red line showed pay utilities, I thought.
Not
The red line
They
show
would
it taken
take it out,
It's like section 10.
Or that they wouldn't pay any utilities either.
right.
right?
It would just be, the utilities would be covered in the police station and fire department's general fund. And I don't know how much it is,
They were paying up to 5,000.
Yeah, they were paying up to $5,000 a year previously.
but do they have less space now than they did before?
Yes.
Well, this is really blowing my mind. From 18 months ago, they're gonna build a brand-new building, and now they.
I don't think they were ever
utilities
going to
unit.
necessarily build a brand new building. I think they were going to explore it to see if it was a cost-effective option. And they quickly realized
Right,
it
and they
wasn't.
definitely went through the process and figured out the cost, and they did go through that process, so, and, so I took them for their word that that's what they were looking into, and it was discussed at a city council meeting, so.
When-
I don't think that was I don't think it was a smoke in your face kind of thing.
No, I don't think they were blowing, I always just understood them that they were going to consider that an option. And I think they quickly realized that it wasn't an option that made cost-effective sense for them with the cost of building. They know, they'd even looked at a few buildings around town and.
Right,
they
yeah, so
couldn't-
when you say quickly, I'm not sure what you mean by that, but
I guess when I
a
say
couple months
quickly,
at least.
yeah, a couple months of due diligence and
Yeah.
realized that that didn't make sense for what they were trying to accomplish.
When is their contract up as of now?
Yeah.
End of April.
End of April?
This year, yeah.
Compile this information and bring it back to us, that's all you can do. We're trying to figure out whether the other cities that are involved, whether they're townships or cities, how much are they willing to contribute to have ambulance service?
I don't think we can do that in a period of 6 weeks.
And if we sign a contract for 5 years, there's no threat that's gonna work on any of the townships or the other cities, cause they know we have a contract for 5 years, so why do they have to do anything?
I know it.
But if I remember right, that last time though, we worked for a series of months going back and forth with
Yes.
public meetings with Mayo and them and different proposals and
Yes.
presentations when our contract had already expired.
And, we opened the mic up and there was a lot of people that had, it was when Ronnie was
Yeah, I
here.
certainly don't wanna get into that again if we don't have to.
So, where do we go, folks?
So I guess we could go back even, do we wanna say we'd like to hold it the same? Maybe we don't reduce it all the way and you say meet halfway in the middle? Or maybe make it an escalator. Maybe you say we'll do 26 for free and 27 at a half and 28 at where we were and.
When discussions with North Memorial occurred based on the changes in the lease agreement, is this where everybody landed?
I don't know if this is just where they said this is our one request. As you can see, we're not making any money at this, and so anything we can do to help offset that.
So was this
We did not as staff tell them, yes, we
No.
will agree to this.
That
This
was
is
the
a-
only thing
we
they,
will-
Okay.
you know, and, because Josh even asked if, you know, are you guys gonna request some kind of a stipend? Being you're losing
Yeah,
money
yeah.
to have our service, are you guys gonna, he says, as of now, no. The only thing would be if we could eliminate the rent.
Well, I think then, if we eliminate the rent, I would want to put back in the utilities. Because I don't think the city should have to pay for the bays and their use of the offices. So I could compromise on eliminating the rent or reducing it to the amount that's in the lease agreement and add back in.
Do we know
That
what,
they would
we
pay
don't know what the
utilities.
utilities are yet, though, right?
Well, I think,
We don't, but I mean, I think,
They said 500 a month.
I'd say, like I said, we were, previously it was $5,000 a year, or $416 a month is kind of what we were charging.
Yeah,
Just,
yeah, I don't know what the new, with less space. I mean, I don't even know if the rent is right.
well, let's put a number in there for utilities and see if they'll be agreeable to that, and then reduce the term of the agreement to 5 years. Gives us an opportunity to talk to the surrounding townships.
The, you know, I'm just talking out loud, but the rent, the amount, we discussed in the past that it's below market rent that we've been charging them. And even if we stick with that rent and go back to our existing agreement and pay utilities, I think that's what we have now. It's not the most substantial expense that we're talking about in their operation.
No.
And as they have said, when we went through this in the past, part of the value that they want to service this area is it provides a savings and overhead for the whole group. Was the Waterville and Faribault?
Wasika.
Wasika and Faribault. So that's part of what they said that they're looking at when they look at the operation as well, so.
And I don't know what other cities do. You know, Faribault charges them, or do they, because they're in a city facility, I think.
yeah, I don't know off the top
And
of
I
my
don't know
head.
what Wasika does either. Maybe that'd be interesting to find out. If they charge rent or utilities, you know, then if it's like, well, let's just be consistent with the three main hubs in the region.
Well, should we find that out and then just table the agreement?
Table until the next meeting.
Okay,
Yeah, see if we can just find that out, and then I think also just for future, you know, and if they come back, well, you know, this, and this, and, you know, we let them know that, hey, we're looking at options to try to get you some, to some offset, you know, similar to the Fires Rural Association, I don't know. What?
I'm just trying to think of an
Come on,
excuse
Josh,
for
what are
the
you
next
talking
meeting after this discussion. Why I can't make it.
We want you to go up to Mayo and talk to that doctor again.
That meeting, don't we?
Yeah, oh, that's right, Bruce, I forgot about that.
Okay, so we're,
Okay.
I'm just kind of,
I wasn't involved in the
it's not
last
clear,
contract.
but I'm just kind of floored that we built a brand new building, and this is the first we hear about their foray into a rent-free facility. It's
Yeah.
staggering to me.
Okay, I make a motion that we table this until
Yep.
later.
yes, I'll
Yeah,
second.
you got the direction, Josh, to get
Yep.
us some information on how the other facilities are doing it and things like that. Okay,
Did we need a vote on that or not?
no,
Okay.
we're giving direction. Okay, budget timeline. Josh? I'd ask Sean, but he would have a different objective than you.
this was really just more of a miscellaneous object as we were, you know, we've we've come out of budgets, and so it's time to start talking budgets again. Really just kind of a timeline that we are looking at, potentially for this coming year. Of note, if you take a look at that, in the past, we have done our truth and taxation hearing, the first meeting in December, and then we have formally approved everything the second meeting in December. There is not anything that says we have to do it that way. Not all cities do it that way. Some of them wrap them up on the same night. The way the meetings are landing this year, I am recommending that might be a way we look at wanting to go. The reason I say that is that the second meeting of December is December 21st. You are getting awfully close to Christmas. I know in the past, when the city council meeting has landed on or very near a holiday, the city council has said, if we don't have to meet, we'd rather not do it. I think it was 2 years ago, we did that for the 4th of July. So with it being that late in the month, just by how everything's landing out, I guess the way this current timeline is showing it would have us being approved on December 7th. Obviously, this isn't a written in stone proposal by any means, but it does also just kind of move everything through the budget a little bit in terms of when we'd be meeting. Also of note, we have generally met for the one time, if maybe 2 times before our preliminary not to exceed levy. We did move this forward a little bit and hold our first budget workshop at the end of July, so that hopefully we could have at least 2, if not even a third, if we really needed it before our preliminary levy, that we didn't necessarily feel rushed in making any preliminary discussion. So, as I said, this is just more of a working timeline that we are currently working on in-house for the 2027 season, since we all know that budget is our favorite time of the year, so let's keep talking about it. Any questions?
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. I like the rationale of, after the truth and taxation, just approving it.
I'm gonna be gone that meeting though, I know already, but,
You know already.
cause I have my niece's wedding
I think I'm gonna be
Saturday
absent
before
that
in
week.
San Francisco.
Do
so-
you want me to put any ambulance discussions on that day as well, so we can
That'd
just
be
knock those
perfect,
out?
let's push
Well, why
that.
don't we just keep it as is, and like you said, it's not etched in stone, and
But right now you have all meetings, at the same time as city council dates?
Yes, which is what we did last year, so we kept that the same. Yeah, and then if you look, there are optional meetings that we have worked in there as well. If for some reason they're needed, anything italicized isn't a planned one at this point, but obviously we can add off city council meeting dates as well. But yeah, right now they're all planned to be part of city council meetings.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that, just because we get buried into issues on city council, and then we start the meeting at 8 o'clock at night, and then sometimes I worry that either we're tired and we miss questions that we should be asking, or we don't wanna ask questions because we just wanna finally get out of here. We've
talk
got
about,
enough.
because
Holding
don't
the
we,
budget meetings either before or after council meetings.
well, I thought we
Especially
did the
after.
truth and taxation before.
I think Sean's saying general budget
General.
workshops.
General budget meetings.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Unless we know, I mean, I don't like having extra days for budget meetings, out over and above the city council meetings, but when you lump those 2 together, unless city staff can pare that council meeting down.
Not doing anything on the weekends all summer.
Unless we do them start the budget meetings at 5.
Well, I know this isn't written in stone, so I just want
Okay.
to say my
Oh,
piece and then we can talk about it.
your point is very fair, because, here it is 10 minutes to 8, and we just getting through our regular packet, and then if we go into a budget session.
Yeah. But 2.5 years left to sit in this chair.
Oh, no.
I do think to that point, if we tried our best, Sean, I think we had that one budget meeting, it was like the first one in October last year, that it was just gnarly.
Yeah.
Like, we that one got away from us a little bit. So,
Okay.
your point's taken.
Okay.
So, anyway,
Okay,
depending on how the budget goes, I'm certainly open to starting at 5
Yeah.
and having our regular council, so maybe we can just kind of judge where things are moving and adjust accordingly.
okay. All right. Okay, anything else, Rick?
Matt, you guys are right on it this weekend. Good job. Thank you, guys.
Okay, Bruce, you got anything else? Sean? Talking to you, Sean.
Yes, thank you. I've been asked by several people now that the police station is looking like it's more and more complete. Do we have any updated timeline on when that's done? And is there gonna be an open house for members of the community?
So I will speak for Tim until he takes the mic away. No.
Well, either one of you,
No, yeah, so I believe last I heard it was, they're kind of May, is kind of when we're looking at opening, obviously depend on, I don't know where they're floating in May, but May is kind of where we're floating. And then, yes, I think our plan is to have, kind of tours where people, obviously there'll be certain areas that people won't be able to go into, but they can get in and see a lot of it. So that is our plan, to have those open house tours. I'd say even to that point, I will say this for Tim, if there's any of you guys that would like to see it a little early, like where it stands now, we can certainly set that up as well, to kind of get
There's
in
gotta be
there
a turnover date, isn't there?
when it's done.
Well, that's not the way we do things.
No, like I said, yeah, they're hoping to be done in May, and so then we'll get it turned over, but.
Okay.
That's all I
Anything
had.
else?
Nope.
Maggie?
Yeah, I just also want to give a shout out to Matt Renda and his crew
He
for
ain't gonna
the
be able to get out of the building.
fabulous plowing work that was done considering the snow event that we had.
I was plowed by 10.
Josh, you have anything?
Maggie took the words right out of my mouth. I was gonna do it so Matt couldn't, but, yes, I think our plow guys did phenomenally this weekend. I know even when I got out to pre-shovel myself out at 9 AM on Sunday morning, my street had already been done, and many of the streets in town were very passable by that point, and looks incredible already. So, yes, I'll jump in on Matt, so it looks awkward if he does it now, so shout out to his guys.
Okay, that it?
That's all I got.
Robin, you got anything? Ken? Tim? Matt? You sure? Okay. Mitch, you good? Ryan? Patrick? I don't have anything, so.
Move to adjourn.
I'll second that. All in favor for adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? Thank you, everyone.
I was kidding when I said I was plowed, guys. I haven't gotten
You
plowed in
are
a really
not.
long time.